Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. My name is Chinamaram Chibo, and today we're talking about scholarships and how to secure the bag, as the kids say. And this is a topic that's been on the back burner for well over a year now, actually. And the reason why it's been so long is because I've kind of been building this up in my head, like this video should help out as many people as possible, so I wanted it to be good, but at the same time that was preventing me from putting something out there. So the best video is the one that is out there. And the reason why I chose now to post it is because the wonderful Martin Petkovsky, I hope I'm not butchering your name, asked when is gonna be a new video. And Martin, now is gonna be a new video. I would shoot this on my camera, but as you can see, there is a memory card error. And I can't use any memory cards. So I think the camera might be dead, and like to ship it to a new center is like $300, which is more than the camera was, like, it's pretty much more than it's worth. So that's neither here or there though. We're talking about scholarships. So securing the bag is important, especially if you want to pursue university. And I'll start this off by saying that that is an option, but it's not the only option. Like finances and going $100,000 or $70,000 in debt as an 18-year-old is something that I think you should think deeply about and not just jump into because everyone else is jumping into it. Everyone's path is different, and the internet has way more resources than anyone could ever imagine. So I'd say consider that, talk to people around you, talk to your guidance counselor, your parents about those alternative paths before jumping into such a huge investment. If you do want to make that huge investment though, that's why I'm here to help, to make it less of an investment, because you can cut down that cost with a bunch of different scholarships, and if you're lucky like me, not have to pay anything at the end of the day. So, and I'm not just the only lucky one. I actually invited two wonderful ladies here with me, and because of our different paths in life, we were able to secure the bag and not have to pay for uni, and hopefully we can help you pay less or pay nothing at all for uni. And if anyone benefits from this video, that would be a win in my book. So I'll actually start just by answering the same questions I asked them, and we'll just go through and see how it goes. So the very first question is, please tell me a bit about yourself, your post-secondary institution, scholarship, and what you won. So my name is Chinamaram Chibo. I am a computer engineering student at the University of Waterloo, and I won the TD Scholarship for Community Leadership, as well as a couple other smaller scholarships, and I was really lucky.
Sure. So my name is Emma Harris. I'm a recipient of the Loran Award, which is one of Canada's biggest scholarships, and I'm pursuing engineering at the University of British Columbia this year.
So my name is Shabneet Thind. I'm in my second year at the University of Manitoba in the Faculty of Science. I'm a recipient of the Schulich Leaders Scholarship. This scholarship is worth $80,000, and you get $20,000 every year.
So there are a lot of applicants for the scholarship, obviously. So what do you think made you stand out?
What I've been told made me stand out was just the diversity of the things that I was doing. I wasn't like just involved in student council or just involved in sports. I had a wide array of kind of things that I was doing. And I think to them that made me look super kind of adaptable, and also just that I was interested in really whatever was fun for me and whatever I enjoyed, and not just kind of like the things that look good on a resume. So that was huge for me. And I think also just like the way you present yourself, you really have to be your biggest advocate. And so in all of my essays and everything, I just really I wasn't shy of telling them about what I'd done or that kind of stuff, just because I knew that, unless I kind of bragged about myself, no one else was going to. So, yeah.
I think one advice that I have for all students is make sure that you make your essay personal. Don't go like, here's what I was involved in, and here's what I did. Here's what I was involved in, here's what I did. You're going to start listing things, and one thing I will tell you is you can't possibly list everything that you were involved in 4 years. They have a word count, like 500 words or 750 words. You will not get through everything. So try and make sure you get through and talk about stuff that was important to you, that made the most impact, or something that you just connect with at the personal level, because a story is better than just a list of things.
what made me stand out from other applicants. So essay style, extracurriculars, that kind of thing. And this will obviously vary per applicant. And I think that's a very important point to note, that it will vary by applicant because you are your own individual, right? So what makes me stand out is not going to be the same thing necessarily as what made you stand out. For instance, I was talking to another TD scholar who tried similar techniques to what I used, but they completely backfired on him, but he won it using his own style. So it's cliche, but being yourself is what makes you stand out. Being yourself. I incorporated things like humor and like a little bit of pizzazz into my essays, and I know that this can really backfire because if the person's, not digging your humor, then that's it. But I just thought it was a good idea, and thankfully it paid off for some of the applications. So yeah, essay style. And in terms of like extracurriculars, I think that there are no specific extracurriculars that you need to do, like no boxes you need to check to be a scholar. One thing that another scholar said to me that stuck is that like everyone there is a student council president. Like you're all the same. What they want is someone who is themselves. And this is something that comes up time and time again. You're not going to stand out by doing what everyone else is doing. You're going to stand out by doing what you think is important and letting your passion shine through. That's an overused word, passion. I don't know if it really exists, but things that you gravitate to slightly more than other things, I'd say focus on those. In high school, if you are in high school, like join a lot. I think as much as you can manage with your studies and whatnot, and then really dive deep into those things that attract you slightly more than other things, and explore those to the fullest, because when interviewers are looking at you, they often want to see length of time and amount of commitment to these different topics and these different activities that you did, and that's if it's an extracurricular or like a community-driven type of scholarship. That's another thing I want to point out. There are many, many different types of scholarships, and you probably hear statistics thrown out. 99% of stats are false, but $10 billion gets thrown away in scholarships that people don't claim. That is obviously, I don't know if it's an exaggeration, but you hear the stats thrown around like that because there are so many scholarships out there, and it's just about looking in the right places and trying to find these. So I'll actually share in the description a bunch of scholarships that I was able to compile. If you have scholarships that you found that you want to add to that list, just let me know, and hopefully we can generate like a big master doc to allow people of different, of all different walks of life to have something that caters to them and be able to apply to that and be successful. And if you had an interview with your scholarship, how did it go and how did you prepare for it?
I didn't have a formal interview per se, but we did have a school interview, and I think one way you can prepare for an interview is look at the requirements for the scholarship. For example, if a scholarship says, A, demonstrate leadership qualities, you can make that into a question. How do I demonstrate leadership qualities? Or if it says you have to be an active member of the community, how do I demonstrate activeness in the community? Or how am I a leader in the community? Right? Like all these questions you can ask yourself and prepare.
Yeah, so how the Loran process worked was essentially I was chosen as a semi-finalist, which meant that from like a group of kids in Manitoba and Saskatchewan, I had made it to that point. And so then there were regional interviews that were held over Zoom. And then after that, I was selected from that group of people. I think total there were about 300 semi-finalists. And then I was selected from that group to move on to be a national finalist. And there was also a few days of Zoom call interviews for that. So it was a pretty rigorous interview process. And honestly, I didn't prepare much, and I think that helped me a lot. I tried not to worry about it. And everyone kind of told me beforehand who had gone through the interview process before, they said, like, just be yourself. That's all you need to do. And I kind of thought, like, no, like, there's got to be, like, a trick to this or something. And I got in there, and honestly, like, there's not. You really just have to, like, talk to these people, tell them about who you are. That's all they want to know. And so for me, it was really relaxed. And I just kind of went in there every day to the interviews, just to, have a good time. I think I learned a lot about myself in the process of being interviewed, which was super cool. Like even after semi-finals, I was like, well, if I don't move on, that was still a super cool experience. And so I think if you just look at it from that perspective, that like this is just a really cool experience regardless of what happens, you can gain a lot from it.
For the TD scholarship, there definitely was an interview. There was only one though. They actually flew me out to Calgary and I got to stay in a sick hotel. It was actually pretty sweet, but that is not always the case. And with this interview, how I prepared for it, I'd say is way more important. So I'd done a lot of other scholarship interviews before this, and some went well and some didn't go well. Well, one thing I would say is that they progressively got better. TD was like the last big scholarship interview I did, but before I went to TD, I had a lot of practice. And that's, I think, the main point, practice. It's like anything else you do in life, right? Practice as you play. If you have like a soccer coach or something, they might say that. And so after completely bombing my first interview attempt, like I tried applying for I think it was the Schulich, and this was just within my school. We had like an interview, and I was like late. I didn't prepare at all. Like I was just completely flustered, and obviously that didn't pan out well, but it wasn't obvious to me. Like these are things that come with time, come with practice. And one thing I did to practice, which I'd say helped me personally way more than anything else, was mock interviews. And this was with teachers, this was with guidance counselors, this was with past employers. Like I just asked anyone and everyone who was willing to just give me some of their time to throw a couple questions at me. And the reason why this is important for me was that interviewers have a broad range of different types of questions they can ask you. And as such, when you ask different people from different walks of life, they can throw a broad range of questions at you. It's not about being prepared for any specific question. It's about generally knowing yourself, knowing what you've done, and being able to communicate that effectively despite the kind of question that's thrown at you. So that was something that really, really helped me, doing a lot of mock interviews with just a bunch of different people.
And did you apply to any other scholarships, and how did those go?
Yeah, I applied to so many scholarships, honestly. I found that a lot of the like applications were very similar, so it kind of ended up working out that I could just kind of copy and paste and change a few things.
Yes.
So I applied to a lot of them I didn't get, and that was totally okay. But I also have received quite a few smaller scholarships. I think just like you just got to apply. Those ones have all went great. Lorraine like puts a cap on the amount of external scholarships that I can receive, so I've maxed out my cap.
Sir.
But yeah, I think you also have to like remember that like you're not going to get every scholarship, and that's totally okay. So yeah.
I think I definitely applied for a bunch of others, and I again didn't get them. But long story short, it really allowed me to come a long way that I could learn from my mistakes. Like, oh my gosh, what did I do here that I didn't do with this one, and how can I change? So again, the part about the essay, I was listing everything that I was involved in, all the volunteer opportunities I had, everything that is just not possible, because you're starting to list, and the person who's reading, they're like, great, next. You're not catching their eye. And then I was just thinking, I'm like, what can I do to make sure that I catch the reader's eye? And then again, it's either can be a story or a quote, like anything that, after having read like hundreds of essays, that you pop out. Like, I remember this one.
And did I apply for any other scholarships? I applied for a lot. I applied for maybe 10 different scholarships. Out of those 10, I got maybe 5 of them. So about a 50% hit rate. And which ones, how did those go? Some of them went better than others. Sometimes you send an email to the void, you hear nothing back. It is what it is. That will be the case a lot of the time. And I think getting used to that, getting used to rejection, or even worse, because rejection is one thing, silence is another thing. Getting used to that is important just in life. Like right now for school, I'm sending like 1 billion job applications. You get 5 back just saying, oh, you didn't get the job. Everything else is silence. So getting that rejection beaten into you, I think, is an important skill in life. And so that is what I'd say. Be prepared to get rejected, because that's just how life works. But the more you cast your net out, the greater a chance you have of not being rejected. And if it's a big scholarship, you only need one. And if it's the smaller ones, you only need a couple. And it really adds up. So I'd say apply as much as you can. That is my personal philosophy. Some different scholars might think differently. They might think be more selective with your applications. I am more of like a shotgun kind of approach. I do say that if there are scholarships that cater to you specifically, let's say you are a black person or you are a woman in tech, these kind of scholarships are great because they are more specific to you, and so statistically speaking you have a higher chance of getting them, especially if like there's some scholarships that pay a lot for like a small group of people. Those are the sickest scholarships, so those are the ones you can target if they apply to you. Do you have any specific scholarship resources or advice?
Guidance counselors are very good. They, again, come across so many scholarships, so you can get in touch with them directly. Or, again, when you Google resources, be careful, because there's some might sound too good to be true, and they most likely are. And there's this Instagram page called Debtless Students. They're very good. They post scholarships regularly and some tips and tricks.
Yeah, I think for me, the Scholarships Canada website was a big thing. You can like sign up for that and they give you emails and stuff that basically just like alert you of any scholarships. I personally kind of at the beginning of my grade 12 year, I made like an Excel doc and I just listed like scholarships, when they were opening, when they were closing, and just kind of like listed it in order of dates. And so that way I could just look at the Excel sheet and know, okay, like the TD scholarship is closing on this date, and here's the link to apply. So that was really helpful for me. I like was contacted by a few organizations who basically like help you through the scholarship application process, and then in turn, if you win scholarships, they take a portion of that money from you. And I ended up not using those, and I'm really glad I did, because I would have ended up losing quite a bit of money. But yeah, I think honestly, if you really just look into it, just figure out the dates, mark them down, and just start working on those applications right away. That's the best way to do it.
And if you could go back in time, knowing what you know now, what would you tell your former self?
I'd say deadlines. They're very, very important, because you're doing all of this with school. Like if something seems like, oh my gosh, it's a month away, or it's 2 months away, trust me, it will get to you very fast. And again, references. You will need references most likely for some of the scholarships, and so you have to get in touch with them sooner than later, because they need time, and you need to make sure you again bundle your time accordingly.
I think honestly, just like don't take it too seriously. Like it's not the end of the world. And at the end of the day, like you can't look at it from a perspective of like other people have this and I only have this. Like I think for me, it was a lot of comparison in the process, especially through Loran. Like I was meeting all of the other kids who were being interviewed, which is just so intimidating, but it doesn't have to be. Like those kids, you know, a lot of them, like, sure, they were president of this and I wasn't, but like I have other things going for me, and you really just can't compare yourself to other people. So I think that was just key for me, is really just like, this is just you, and like you getting just because another kid has done something doesn't mean they're going to hurt your chances of getting the scholarship.
If I could go back in time, so if you can go back in time knowing what you know now, what would you tell your former self? I would say apply for more. I'm not even kidding. Because I think that so much practice doesn't hurt at all. Like even if I didn't get a single one of those scholarships, one thing that came out of it was better interviewing skills, you know, knowing myself, like summarizing everything I've done in high school into like succinct and reproducible paragraphs, or like knowing more of like that process, that distillation process, I think helped me better understand myself as a person. And I think I wouldn't go as far as to say it's more valuable than the money, but I do think it's valuable in and of itself. And that skill of like essay writing and stuff like that, I think is also important. Anything else you'd like to mention? Yes, essay writing. This is a big part. Now, I'm not going to go into all of the ins and outs. If you guys want a separate video of that, please let me know. This one's running a little bit long, but when it comes to essays, reduce, reuse, recycle. So what you want to do is you want to cut out the parts that aren't necessary. So that's the reduce part. So if it's like a billion words, you don't want that. Obviously, if they give you a word limit, please stick to that. And if you are transferring essays, so this is the reuse part. Reuse and recycle kind of go hand in hand, you know? But I feel like reuse is a little bit more for question mark. Sometimes you don't want to actually like, it's not plagiarism because it's you, right? Like you can't really plagiarize yourself. But double dipping is sometimes not the best thing. But recycle I definitely agree with. So you're slightly transforming the original product and you want to cater it slightly to the next one you're applying for. So I think in total, time spent writing essays for me, out of all the scholarships I applied to, was maybe 15 hours. And this is for like over 100 grand. I do not know any job other than tax evasion that is going to get you that pay for that amount of work. So like, and I've wasted 15 hours doing nothing. I do that every weekend. You just sleep two times, that's 15 hours right there. So I'd say apply, please, if you can. I will leave some down in the description. Please check that out. And it's never too late. So even if you are already in university, there's still scholarships. It's the $1.05 billion that gets wasted every year. Like, please apply, especially if you need it. And third point, make sure this is for you. Make sure that you actually want to go into university. And if you don't, there are still scholarships. So those will possibly also be in the description. But for people pursuing like entrepreneurship outside of school or trying to start their own business, there are grants and scholarships that will be hopefully down below if I get to that. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this helped. If you have any questions at all, please leave them in the description. I want to say big thank you to the scholars that joined me in this video. Also, you might want to check out what are they called? They're called the Debtless Students. I was actually on a panel with them. They're wonderful people, and they are trying to help for free students to get these scholarships. So I'll put their link in the description as well. And yes, thank you guys so much. I hope you have a great day. I hope you secure the bag, and even if you don't, I hope you learned some valuable lessons. And peace.